Oh, yes. Welcome to the Good Listening To show here on UK Health Radio. And I'm extremely excited to welcome to the Good Listening To show clearing the inimitable, the esteemed. And by the way, I use the word inimitable deliberately for reasons I'll explain. But this is Peta Maurice, who is a glorious, optimistic force of nature, who I have the great pleasure of being on the stage with oftentimes, because Peter is an integral part of the comedy improvisation company Instant Wit that I've been running for many, many years. And you are indeed welcome to the Good Listening To show clearing, Peta Maurice.
Well, oh, thank you. And I thank you so much for having me here today.
You quite literally
thank
were.
you. Such
Lovely.
an honor to, that you think I'm worthy. So thank you.
Thank you for coming here and gracing us with your presence. Now, I use the word inimitable as I described because when I Googled you, because I could before we started, you are an inimitable voice artist and actor, inimitable. So good you were mentioned inimitably twice. I suspect that's a voiceover agency you're part of, but I think you are inimitable. You're
well,
awesome.
thank you. And you say it about as well as I do, because I still can't say inimitable, even though they're my voiceover agency. So
yes, and do you know, as you're mentioning that, my daughter Lily couldn't say the word pumpkin for many years. It was always mumpkin, munkpin. And then my son Stan just stood up one day and went, pumpkin. Now, what's the problem?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? So this is the place where the clearing happens, and it's where all good questions come to be asked, I think you'll find, and all good stories come to be told. And it's my great joy to bounce you along the storytelling metaphors, Peta Maurice, of being here. We're going to shake your tree within a clearing, and then we're going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. There'll be an exercise or even an exercise, as you're supposed to say when you're doing a voiceover. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll talk about alchemy, gold, bit of Shakespeare, and you'll get a cake. So it's all to play for.
Love cake.
So just to blow a tiny bit of smoke at you, you're a wonderful actress, and I did describe you as being an optimistic force of nature because you have always smiled and are smiling whenever I met you. And by that, I mean that kindly. I don't mean you're, for those watching, she is not, let me assure you, gurning like an idiot here. I also like the cut of your filmic jib because we talked about this just a moment ago. You've got a brick wall behind you, and you're so much more interesting than your brick wall.
Well, you know, a blank canvas, isn't it? Although it's quite an interesting shaped brick wall. Actually, it's just a normal brick wall, but because of my ridiculous webcam, it looks like a strange kind of fisheye, weirdy, warped wall.
Weirdy, warped wall. You're good at alliteration too. We like that. And by the way, you've got the weirdy fisheye stuff because you've been doing some incredibly creative stuff during lockdown. In today's date happens to be, the 20th of April here in the UK. We're both in Bristol. I know we're currently about 5 miles apart, probably. But you've been doing stuff like Sherlock in Holmes. See what you did there. Murder at the Circus. Now, apart from Instant Wit, you two have leaned in all sorts of ways whilst Instant Wit has been sort of parked up. Like me, you've had to evolve and be incredibly creative during this pandemic period. So my first question to you is, how's morale? What's your story of the day, Peta Maurice?
Oh, how's morale? Do you know what? It's good. Currently, very good indeed. It was a bit wobbly at the start of all this global pandemic. Although I did just kind of take on board new role as a homeschooler, which was fun. And I thought maybe it would last about 4 weeks, and went guns blazing into homeschooling my children with all the creativity stops pulled out.
Yes, you did.
And then crashed and burnt, as you can imagine.
I thought there was a moment during the period when you said, yes, I was born for homeschooling for Harry Potter dress ups. You were doing incredibly creative stuff. And I love the fact you scorched out.
I totally did. I had it all worked out. We had adventures in the lounge to go with the lesson plan every day. So they'd go out to play and I'd create these different scenes and we'd do these marvelous adventures in the lounge. And like at the end of week 3, I was like, oh, how long is this going on for?
Yes,
so a year later.
Several more months to go. And by the way, the lovely thing is you are a bit of a Julie Andrews, and it is a bit like, you behaved as if you were, enabling and facilitating the entire Von Trapp family of, optimism, positivity, just a spoonful of sugar and some awesome lesson plans, off you go.
Yeah, well, indeed, for a while. And then it all, yes, as you say, crashed and burnt a little bit. I did try and keep it going, but I think my the moment when I actually rebuilt the box tunnel when we were doing some Bristol work and Brunel in my lounge, and had water like coming in, well, not real water, like blue cloth coming in, and everything would crumble and we'd have to rebuild the box tower, and we got to the end and we finally crashed through the end when we were building the box tunnel. And I'd actually angled it. This is how ridiculous I am.
How awesome you are.
The light from the window came through because Brunel built the box tunnel to face the sunrise on his birthday. So I mean, we got to the end and Lola, who's my 6-year-old, went, "Is that it?" Today. And I thought, right,
that is the end of your education, my love, is what you thought. By the way, if I was your neighbour, I'd be so tempted to just bung my kids around your house because you seem to have nailed it. But I commend you for your energy and all of that.
Well, that's because all of my other creative jobs were cancelled on day one. So
yes, and that has been the extraordinary thing. And we can talk about, how we've all lent into adversity as part of this, because, that's one of the reasons I was quite excited to speak to you, because I've just been really blown away by your approaches to creativity during this time as well, as an inspiration to us all. So let's get you going then on the Good Listening to Show podcast. And by the way, you are a genuinely lovely actress. I've seen you in many things at the Tobacco Factory, The Borrowers. You played Pinocchio, even though you've got quite a delicate button nose. But you were big nose for a bit, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yes, that was a pretend nose, believe it or not.
Yes.
I've got there's still like a model of my face up in the puppet place in Bristol. So
of course there is.
Well, I was desperate for a wee the other day because, as you know, in lockdown, you go for these lovely jaunts with a friend and you realise that there's no public toys open. And I was able to knock on the door of Puppet Place and say, "There's my head. Can I use your toilet?" And they looked up and saw a cast of my face and thought, well, yeah, all right. So
do you know what? That's a really good reason to put wooden heads of effigies of yourself in every household in the land.
It is at the moment.
So a wee shall be yours if you knock on my door and you can see an effigy of your head behind you.
Bring you one of my heads. I have plenty.
And you have a lovely head. Well done.
No, thank you.
So first question then, in the storytelling metaphors, we're going to bounce along here. So what is a clearing like for you, Peta Maurice? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational and able to think, please?
Well, I realised over the years, I need a very clear space. So the clearing for me is quite literally that, a clear space somewhere I'm comfortable. So it could be at home, but everything needs to be back where it belongs for me to then crack on and do what I need to do. Because I realize that if there's mess around me, my head is equally as messy. And I don't think I'm alone in that, but I think I really make sure when I'm working from home now, when everybody's where they need to be, childcare, school, husband's gone to work, I come home and I will dedicate 20 minutes, half an hour to making sure that I can work and be productive by getting everything clear.
Thus proving you are Mary Poppins. It's in your DNA. I can imagine you kicking your fingers and la la la, trip trop, and it's all put away where it should be.
Like big brooms out of a magic bag. That's me.
Lovely. And
and then also I think on top of a clean piece of paper, A4 paper, and a doodle pen.
I like you. That's 2 answers. No extra charge, please. That's lovely.
So there's an answer within an answer.
So what's quite lovely here is I'm now going to arrive with my tree in your metaphorical clearing. And because you've gone a bit metaphorical, we can either arrive in picture form on your Doodlepad with my tree to continue this program in almost cartoon-like scape, or I can come around your house that's just been tidied up with a tree. What would you prefer?
Oh, can we have like a bigger piece of paper and a lovely cartoony tree?
Let's do that. You're the first person to take me into a Cartoon-Scape on the Good Listening To show, and I'm enjoying that. Thank you. Lovely. So here I am with a tree in your Cartoon-Scape on your Doodlepad extra large piece of paper, and we're going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out now, Peta Maurice. And you've had 5 minutes to have thought about, before we spoke, 4 things that inspire you. No, Wibble. It's my show. I should know what I'm asking you for. 4 things that have shaped you. I think you'll find 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, which is the squirrels moment borrowed from Up, and then a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know until you tell us. So don't panic, Mrs. Mainwaring. You don't have to shake the tree in a wanna, but they're your apples to crunch. Off you go, please.
Oh, crunchy, crunchy. Okay, so the four things that shaped me, obviously, I was having a bit of think about this, and it's quite tricky, isn't it? When you think, oh, the different kind of twists and turns that your life takes. But I mean, the first thing that popped into my head, obviously, was my mum and dad, for obvious reasons, because obviously parents do kind of shape you. But they were always really, really good at keeping our feet on the ground, especially mine, because I was always floating off into the clouds. My sister was quite firmly planted anyway, in a very sensible but nice way. And I was just, flitting around. So when I was doing, drama and singing and acting, yeah, I was kept quite grounded. And when it came to the point where I was making decisions about kind of the next stage of education, kind of further education, um, it was my parents really that said, well, maybe don't do just acting, maybe do it as part of something else. So I did end up going to university and do media and drama. And I think that was really worthwhile, because it just kind of kept a few more doors open. And I did actually work at a radio station after that. And then that kind of led me into, being more in that kind of corporate world and talking to people about sales and negotiations, and kind of led me into.
And that's very relatable, by the way, because I think we have similar parents in that I was given the advice, if you want to be an actor, be a drama teacher first. So the idea of doing something else to back you up. And as
Yeah.
you talked about, your media savviness is definitely what's equipped you for even what you've been doing in the last year, actually.
Yes, I agree. And earlier on in lockdown, I wrote a radio play and was able to kind of record it, because obviously you can't see that many people. I recorded it, I edited it, I kind of did everything. So it was quite nice that I had that radio media kind of background from university to be able to do
And I
that.
love the groundedness you described, because actually I keep riffing on the idea of you being a bit of a Mary Poppins, but you even described there of you floating off into the clouds. So it's a bit like, I'm thinking of a metaphor of you being a bit of a helium balloon of creativity, where you're always going to rise, and then your parents were there to sort of make sure that your balloon doesn't squeak too much, and it's keeping you on an even keel.
Yeah, yeah, I think
So
that's
neat.
I think that's right. And I think it was, it was really important because, once you get into, if you are metaphorically a helium balloon rising into the air, then, you're floating around and there's too much option. Like, where do you go? What do you do? So actually having that bit of kind of
So there's
ground.
something about the need to be tethered either to the clear space you described, or your beautiful family surrounding you, which anchor you, tether you, keep you on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, not like tether with really strong ropes, maybe a bit of elastic so
I'm
that
with
there's
you.
still a bit of buoyancy.
So always the spare elastic in your pants, madam.
Exactly. Tethered by
Exactly.
knickers by Peta Maurice.
Thank you so much. Just say that again, because I missed that last bit.
Tethered by, I don't know what I said, tethered by knickers by Peta Maurice.
I love that. A world exclusive, the title of your next radio play.
Indeed.
Back to you, dear. We're still in your tree, shaking it.
Yes. So the last thing that I think really helped me along the right path in life was probably the very last year of university. I'd spent the first 2 years kind of not really taking myself very seriously. And that was probably due to the fact that I'd come from quite a small town, where, I was on stage playing the main parts in the local amateur dramatics company. And suddenly I was at university with a crowd of other people that were as good, if not better than me at what we did. And I kind of really kind of withdrew a little bit, I think, at that stage in my life, and didn't put myself forward to be in the productions, and I kind of lost confidence in myself, I suppose. And then that last year of university, I was taught in my acting classes by lovely Linda Rook, who is now area councillor, I think, for equity, in the Southwest.
And have you reconnected with Linda Rook in the
You know
intervening
what?
period?
No, I haven't really, and I'd like to. we've kind of exchanged a few niceties. I worked behind the bar at Bristol Old Vic at some point, and she came in and I kind of said hi, but I've never really been sure if she remembers who I am from university, because that was quite a long time ago now.
Do you know what? I think she'd be just totally raptured and enamored, because that idea of just saying thank you meant, not that you have been ungrateful, but I love the closure of saying to someone, wow, you were a major influencer in my life.
Yes, and she really was, because she was so there was her and there was another director called Errol. I can't remember his last name because we called him Errol Flynn.
Was it Errol Flynn?
Well, that's what we called him, you see. Yes. So I can't remember his real name.
So he cut a dash, Errol. Yeah.
Yeah, and between the two of them, they really kind of believed in me, and and said, you can do this. And Errol went as far as saying, why don't you audition for RADA? And I went, that's funny. And didn't. So still wasn't really taking myself seriously, but I think those two were the two that really kind of told me to believe in myself and have more confidence, and that I could take myself seriously.
So is Errol's surname to be discovered, and did you say Linda Rook?
Linda Rook.
Wonderful. Who's now still in Bristol as a presence within Bristol, so therefore she's still out there, which is awesome.
She's still out there, and she's brilliant. She's lovely, great actress. She was in Hollyoaks at the time when I was at university. And we went out in the streets to do this invisible theatre, and obviously she had to come out with us and secretly kind of mark us in McDonald's, but she just kept people kept coming up to her and asking for her autograph.
But surely if it's invisible, no one can see you. So how can she mark you?
Well, we didn't really have like invisibility cloaks from Harry Potter or nothing like that. We had to be real people.
Oh, I see. Blending in. I get that. I do know. Sorry, I'm being facetious. I know what invisible theatre is. Of course I do, dear.
You know nothing about acting, Chris. I never will.
Oh, that's awkward. You've called me out. Quite right. So back to your tree. Have we done all of the shapings?
You know what? We actually have only done 2, so I will get a wiggle on. The next one I would say was an audition I had for Sally Cookson, who is, obviously, as we know, brilliant. Well, not everybody might know, but a brilliant director. For We're Going on a Bear Hunt. I didn't get the part in We're Going on a Bear Hunt, but she kind of earmarked me to be in Stickman, which was Stickman live on stage. So from there, I did the Stickman. I did a couple of other productions with Scamp Theatre, but through that, I then met Julia Donaldson, who wrote The Gruffalo and Stickman and Tiddler and Zog, all the children's books, and have a lovely relationship with Julia now and her husband, and do some directing for them. So that's been quite a big part of my life, and it all kind of came from this lovely audition.
I also like the fact that to inspire actors coming on now is the idea that when you have an audition, you meet someone and you may not be right there and then, but if you are memorable in the right way, you could be right for the next thing, which obviously happened with the window of opportunity presented to you by Sally Cookson. Yes,
indeed. Yeah. I think she just thought, oh yeah, she can be in that production rather than
Yes, I'm going to bank you. I like that idea. Lovely. So it's all about carpe diem, seizing opportunities. Love that. And being present to your opportunities as well. That's a lovely thing about keeping optimistic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think all of these things, though I didn't think about them at the time, they were kind of catalysts for actually quite bigger things in my life. So working with Julia now is great, and we're just about to rehearse something else, so that's lovely. And then the final
your helium balloon has kept rising, is what I'm hearing.
Oh. Although just still tethered on knicker-elastic.
Let's be clear about that. Sure.
And then I suppose the last thing that I want to say that shaped me is something we've already talked about, and that's kind of my own family bubble. I mean, obviously, kids are always going to shape you in some way, and when you're busy going off on national tours and international tours, and suddenly you've got children, then you really do have to reshape your life and make it work for family life. So I got married to lovely Jack, and then we've got these 2 children, 6 and 3 they are now, and having to kind of rethink what to do with my life, but in the same creative world. It's tricky, but it's worked.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I know obviously Lola's in the mix there. Is she a showgirl is the question on everyone's lips, if they know that.
She is a showgirl.
Obs. Have we? I think that's the fourth apple of the shaping, isn't it? So now we're on to inspiring, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So,
Um,
three
so
things that have inspired you, please.
well, inspiration wise, my friends, I think, really inspire me. I mean, I don't think, I know they really inspire me. Not just the creative guys, like, you know, from all walks of life, but especially now in this lockdown, I've been completely inspired by a lot of people's innovation and creativity, and, you know, including yourself, like how you can take your skills and your talent and still put it out there in the world, but in a different way. So, you know, these kind of lovely podcasts that are coming out, and these online shows, and actually, you know, all of these things are doing really well, and selling out, and it just goes to show that people still have a thirst for live entertainment even though they can't go to a theatre. So I think
Yes.
that's been a real inspiration.
And I know that we share the same anchor point, which is coming back, which will be Instant Wit someday, which is of itself a wonderful clearing, because it's that mindset of yes and whatever else is going on in our lives, we can come back to the Instant Wit clearing when we can go live again, which is very exciting.
Oh, very excited about that. Yeah, I've kind of kept my toe in a little bit with the improvising with Sherlock in Holmes, which is what you mentioned earlier.
And that is such a profoundly inspirational title, by the way, Sherlock and Holmes. I see what you're doing there. It's very, very clever.
Yeah, well, I don't take credit for that one. It is clever, but that was not my doing.
And in Googling some of the images of you, by Googling you before we started, there are some images of that up there where you've got a lovely tash in one of the parts that you're playing. I'm not saying you have a tash now.
Well, I mean, it is right next to me. So actually, it's just there.
I love that. Within seconds, you can whip a tash on. That's how versatile you are.
That's just me and my little circus garage that we're in right now.
Shaky, shaky, tree shaky. So where are we up to now?
What are we doing?
You did friends just now, and those that have been creative to inspire you.
Yes. Nature.
Yes.
I love gardening now, because I think it's because I hit 40 and decided I like gardening, because that's what happens. But yeah, I just love being out on a nice day, just walking, and I do find that nature is a big kind of clearer of mind as well. I'm really a fair weather person though. I hate cold. I don't like rain. So when I say nature, it has to be in the right environment.
Has to be warm. Yes.
Be warm.
And as you like gardening because you're 40 now, I saw a joke today on the hashtag LOLvirus group. There was a meme where a chicken was there looking quite old, and it says you reach a particular age where you use your knee to predict the weather, to predict the weather, because you've got a dodgy knee. Not you personally, but you use your arthritis predicts the weather.
It's usually my wrist, actually, that I broke when I was 10. Goes, oh, it's feeling a bit dicky. Must be a bit chillsome outside.
And during the pandemic, by the way, I completely concur. Just nature, getting outdoors. You know, my bike is my freedom, is how it's relatable. And also, there's an adage which you'll like, which, if in doubt, walk it out. It's just a really good strategy for resilience, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like that's kind of yeah, I'm going to be the only person that finds nature inspiring. I think people for many years throughout history have found nature inspiring. But yeah, I do. I just yeah. I do.
Love
I haven't
that.
got anything else to say. The one thing that I don't find very inspiring, even though I love my children, is going for a walk through nature with the children, who are like just getting dirtier and dirtier and won't let me walk anywhere because they just stop to look at everything. And I think, come on, get away.
Hurry up. This walk's supposed to be for me, not you.
Yeah, like pick a leaf and we'll do some rubbing when we get home. Get a wiggle on, come on.
Love that. And then now, sorry, is that the end of the wiggle waggles of the shaking of the inspiration?
No, well, the last one was it was my parents again, actually, just because of their kind of thirst for life, really, and just keeping really, really busy. I just hope that when I'm in my 70s, I'm kind of as busy as them and keeping the old brain ticking along.
Lovely. And I love the reincorporation there of your parents appearing in two parts of the tree shaking, please.
Who knew? Who knew they were so important to my life, my parents?
Until this moment. Lovely. And now we're going to talk about, if I may, two things that never fail to grab your attention.
Numero uno is voices. I love watching people who can do different voices, different accents, just play around with their voice. I find it, if I watch a cartoon with the girls, I'm quite often Googling to see what the voiceover artist looks like and what else they've done. And I think, I mean, I do quite a lot of voices myself, so I think that's where the interest is. But I just love that. I find that really interesting.
That's a lovely answer. You reminded me as well that we're in a Cartoon-Scape. Don't forget, listeners, we're in a Cartoon-Scape as we explore this. Lovely. So there's an avatar version of this going on. Lovely.
Well, then to add to the other, add to the cartoonness of it all, the other thing that doesn't fail to grab my attention is magic. I am a real sucker for magic, and I really try and work out how they do stuff. But I'm like a child when it comes to magic tricks, or like watching Harry Potter. Things like that.
You've just reminded me. I need to get hold of Peter Clifford at some point to bring him into the clearing, because he's our local magician, ain't he?
He is. Yeah. Get him in the clearing. Yeah, he's an interesting one to talk to, Peter Clifford. I've had some nice chats with him.
and by the way, you are very versatile as a voiceover artist. It makes complete sense that you're sort of squirrels is listening to how others do that. It's about honing your craft, if I may.
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah. I just find it really interesting when you're looking at somebody and suddenly a different sound comes out of their face.
Yes.
But
the sound comes out their gob you weren't expecting. I love that.
Love the
Morning. So now we're on to, I think, one quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know about you, Peta Maurice.
Do you know what? I really found it hard to think of something, probably because I'm an oversharer, and I just felt like
I'm an oversharer, shall we say?
an oversharer. That's what you don't know about me. I've got half a fake tooth.
Looking nice on the gnashes. So which is the one? We could guess, but what you're pointing at it, you've touched
front right is most of it got knocked out when I was small by a roundabout. So
a roundabout?
Yes.
Not a rounder's bat, a roundabout.
Yes, like a roundabout that you find in a playground.
Oh, that sort of, I'm driving my car to a roundabout, but you're talking about a playground roundabout.
It's a playground roundabout, yes, next to the swings and slides and whatnot.
Oh, you got twonked by that on the tooth?
Yeah, like the bars that come out. I mean,
I know exactly what you're describing now.
Came round and it dinked me in the old face. And I think it was a completely new tooth, so all of it kind of got knocked out. And then it carried on growing. So as it grew, then I just had a really chipped tooth. And so half of it.
I think you've always had lovely teeth. So whoever does your work, well done to them.
I don't even know. It's been in there for so long.
Lovely teeth for radio, may I say. Very good. I love that quirky fact. Thank you.
You're
awesome.
welcome.
So I think our tree is shaken. So now, shaken but not stirred, in the Cartoon-Scape of your tree shaking, we now move away from the tree, but we stay in the clearing. And now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold, if we may. So, this is juicy. So when you are at purpose and in flow, what is the alchemy and the gold that you like to bring to the world?
What's the question?
What? So alchemy and gold, when you're at purpose and in flow, and obviously I'm getting positivity, warmth, humanity, creativity. So it's just you just bigging up yourself about what alchemy, what's the magic that you're here to reveal? And you like magic too.
I like magic too. I have always had the mindset of it'll be all right. And that doesn't work for everybody. I think my it'll be all right mindset doesn't really work for my mum and sister, who are very big on organizing. So they would make sure something is organized well in advance. Whereas I would do it last minute, wang it all together and hope it'll be all right. And it's never probably quite as good as the organized one, but hey, we're having a laugh.
That's great, alchemy and gold. Love that answer. At this precise moment of this answer, some scaffolders have started slapping some planks together. So I'm going to go shut my window, but hold the line caller. You can, do a funny voice or something while I've gone. I'll be moments away. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you in the more than incapable hands of Peta Maurice while I go and shut my window. Thank you.
Excellent. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, off into the distance. Oh, and he's back.
And they were real scaffolders, not cartoon ones. But hey, we're in the scape again. So I love that fact, by the way. So sorry, and your alchemy and gold is just really lovely, that it will be all right on the night. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point when instant wit gigs, where we always do a little warm up, if it ever goes wrong, you might notice me say it will be all right on the night, even though it
Yes. It's a lovely moment, isn't it, when we just riff and do one-word stories and just get in the zone. And we often say it wasn't funny, but it was fast enough. And then the adrenaline of the audience being there then carries it to the next level.
Yes, and that's what we hope for every time.
And by the way, just to blow a lovely bit of smoke, you are a joy and have been consistently. How many years? I've been running Instant Wit for about 25 years now. I'm very old. But when did you join? Do you remember?
Do you know, I knew you were going to ask me this. When I joined, I remember being the youngest member of the team and in my 20s. I'm now 42. So I think that I was maybe 28 or so.
I'm only 29 now. No, I'm 58 now. So yes, Gordon Bennett.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a perpetual joy of yes andness whenever, because the lovely thing about the dynamic of the company, we're all very disparately scattered about, but then we converge, don't we, about 2 hours before or an hour and a half before. We get on the same wavelength, wibble on, and then on we go. Exactly.
And I, for a long time, not so much anymore, I would rock up to an instant wit gig and meet somebody for the first time an hour and a half before performing on stage with them. And then you end up in all sorts of kind of sticky predicaments in random scenes where the audience has shouted, "Lost!" And you think, oh, I've only just met this person.
Yes.
All right. Get in there.
Should we have dinner first? But there's no time for that. You've got to, yes, exactly. And your optimism and then it'll be all right in the night is a brilliant philosophy, or it'll be okay. That works so well in the wonderful anything is possible space of the, anything is possible potential of a comedy improvisational clearing. So you're just incredibly good at it. And it's a pleasure to be on stage with you doing it.
That's very kind of you to say so.
You're more than welcome. So I love your alchemy and gold there. It'll be all right. So now I'm going to award you with a cake. And this is the final really lovely, deliberately multifaceted cake in that you're going to put a cherry on the cake, which is the legacy of our conversation together. And I want to get a bit existential on your ass as well, because I'd like to introduce a little bit of Shakespeare, if I may. And inspired by Shakespeare's All the World's a Stage and all the men and women merely players. So I'd like to invite you to include in this answer what you'd like your legacy to be, how you'd most like to be remembered. But you can get there via also any inspirational quotes that have always helped and pulled you towards your future. And you can also talk about what advice you might give to a younger version of yourself. Mm-hmm. So this is multi-layered, multi-textured. It's quite a nice cake. And your invitation now is to put the cherry or cherries on your cake. Peta Maurice.
Right. Oh, this is another big old layered cake doodle on my Doodlepad. So I would quite like maybe my legacy to just be maybe written on my gravestone. Here lies Peta Maurice. It was all right on the night. Maybe. And
I like that. I'm just letting a bit of silence hang there because that's lovely. Just say that one more time and I'll just let it hang there.
Here lies Peta Maurice. It was all right on the night. Excellent.
Cool. Next.
I'm alive again. I think the piece of advice that I would give my younger self, possibly my own self as well, is, so when I was in school, I was quite often called, funny, bit weird, bit of a class clown. And I would say, do you know what? That's not a bad thing if you embrace it and it ends up on your professional CV.
That is alchemy and gold again, right there, and very relatable because, I've come at it from a similar sort of textured background of being the group twonk. I'm not calling you a twonk. That was what I was thinking. Yeah. It's good to be maverick and it's good to be able to see the humor and the quirk in situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I think that we all do very well in instant wit is we have the ability to laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
So, the situations in life and people in life that you need to take seriously, and of course you do, but you don't necessarily have to take yourself seriously all the time. So,
Yes.
if in instant wit, for example, a scene is just completely going down the toilet, nobody's laughing, then the biggest laugh comes from us admitting that that was just a pile of
Doodah.
doodah.
Doodah,
And
doodah. Quite literally doodah
exactly,
day.
and being able to laugh at ourselves. So yeah.
Oh, by the way, one thing we've not talked about, sorry, I'm interrupting your cakiness, but you also are a lovely singer because you have this lovely act called the Goodnight Sweethearts. So
Yes.
in your versatility canon, you've also got a sort of World War II themed "We'll Meet Again," Dame Vera Lynn, but personified through you. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about the Goodnight Sweethearts, by the way?
Yeah. So the Goodnight Sweethearts all came about when I was living with my friend Lucy, who is the other sweetheart. Um, and we both love singing, and we did a lot of, at the time we were doing a lot of TIE together, which is theatre in education. So having a right old laugh, educating the children of Bristol. Um, and Lucy just said to me one night, "Oh, I just really, really love to do some like 1940 singing." And I just said, "All right, we'll do it." And by the end of that night, we had the Goodnight Sweethearts as a name. I'd, kind of got up and like designed a little website or something, or probably not, but we'd had a look at backing tracks, and we were on our way to rehearsing the first thing. So that was quite a while ago now, maybe
By the way,
10.
that's yes and right there. The psychology of I've had an idea. Oh, squirrels, let's go do it, which is just lovely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was definitely one of those moments that was like there was absolutely nothing stopping us doing that. And I think the two of our powers combined, it was me that just kind of went, "What a great idea! Yes, come on."
Oh, yes. So you're a collaborator. I love that. The power of our, you said the two of us combined, the power was boff. Also,
Yeah.
I hit on a quote a couple of days ago that the difference between what you want and what you get is what you do. And so
Oh,
you just had, it's action towards, which I loved. I've had
yeah.
an idea. All right.
All right, let's do it.
So
Um,
the good, I used to, released a couple of Goodnight Sweetheart clips that I put into the LOL virus group at the very early point of the pandemic. So when did you last do one?
well, actually, the last one we did, I think, um, oh God, when was it? I'm just trying to think. So there was that moment kind of in summer where we were allowed back in each other's gardens as long as we kept our distance. And Lucy
Yes.
actually came out because we were doing them. I was recording my half, and then she was recording her half, and then we'd kind of put this split screen together of us singing in different locations, which was really fun to do. And then she actually came over to the garden, and we sang in the garden together. And then we got really frightened that we weren't 2 meters apart. So I don't. My husband looked at it, Jack, and went, "I don't think you're 2 meters apart. I'm not sure if you can put it out." And I was like, "Oh no." And I got really scared. So, and
I like the fact you're a complier. You complied to the rules
well,
of 2 meters.
exactly, yes, they do like
You're
to
a very upstanding citizen, may I say.
yeah, yeah.
And forgive me, I've taken us on a bit of a tangent. This is back to you now with your cake and the legacy of the conversation. I love your epitaph. What else would you like to leave us with as the legacy of this lovely conversation, Peta Maurice?
I don't, do you know what? I don't really know. I feel like I've said a lot of things, and I'm trying to think if there's anything that I haven't said that I think I wanted to say. I can't think of anything.
And I've really enjoyed being in our Cartoon-Scape, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. I might even go away and doodle this whole conversation.
Do you know what? I would love to get a doodle of this conversation because it's a Cartoon-Scape, because that's not a skill I have, and I love the mindscape of it, but I wouldn't be then able to translate it into because you've been doing some pictures recently. When we had a quick conversation yesterday about today, you just touched on the fact that you're about to go to the post office to post a picture somewhere.
Yeah, well, actually, this one was kind of had some gold pen detail on it, so I actually delivered it like by hand because I got a bit scared that it was going to tarnish the gold in the post. But yeah, so the drawing. I've always been a doodler. I'm a constant doodler. I quite often I travelled around the world and I doodled everywhere we went with just little memories, like nothing special. But I did a lockdown doodle of all the things that we did in homeschool. And I showed my friend Jen, lovely Jen, who then went, oh, I love it, please can you do one for my 2 children? And I was like, well, yeah, of course, just give me a list of things that they love. And so I did those ones, and then from there it's just kind of snowballed really, which is really lovely. So I'm now drawing bespoke pictures, doodles for people, so they kind of
would you be willing to share one which I can drop into the UK Health Radio Dropbox, get me, and then I think listeners might be able to look at one as well?
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah.
I like you, you're very amenable. That's lovely. So Peta Maurice, Hectress, where can we find out more about you on the interweb should we wish to? And go as hard as you like, madam, on your URLs, if you'll pardon me.
Yeah, well, just Google Peta Maurice and see what comes up. Do you know what? I was thinking about this and I was really stumped as to where to find me on the internet, because I'm in the middle of making a website for me, which will kind of then bring everything I do together in one place, but that's not finished yet.
Yes.
So Instant Wit website, Sharp Teeth Theatre website.
And you did the Actor Factory for a while as well. Is that still going?
The Actor Factory, not really. We did a lot of murder mysteries and things like that, which we aren't doing anymore. But under the banner of Actor Factory, is the Good Night Sweethearts and a few other bits of entertainment. And
the website that's sort of rustling under a tarpaulin metaphorically at the moment, what's going to be the URL of that once it's completed?
Probably like petermaurice.co.uk.
That's so imaginative. You've literally gone for your name and like made it into a website. I love that. Yes. Yeah. So
maybe I'll call it Peta Maurice tethered by her knickers.com.
I think that's going to be available as a URL domain.
Good.
I'm predicting that for you here live on the UK Health Radio show space. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you here in the Good Listening To show Clearing. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Peta Maurice. I've been Chris Grimes. This has been the Good Listening To show. Until next time, to your good health and ta-ta. Thank you very much.
Thank you.